Good morning, Year 6. Miss Crane here again with your Wednesday writing session. Hopefully you managed to get your introduction boxed off yesterday. We've got a little bit more to get done today. We're going to have a go at paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. So we need our writing heads on and we need to be switched on and ready to go. So, very quick recap, same questions as yesterday. Let's remind ourselves, what are we writing, who are we writing it for, and what is our purpose? Pause the video, I'll give you a few seconds to have a think about what we're doing. And hopefully you have told me we are writing a magazine article for National Geographic magazine, all about the discovery of a new, very impressive Arctic creature. Our audience are the readers of the magazine and people who are interested in scientific discoveries, and our purpose is to both entertain and to inform our reader. So today we're going to have a look at paragraphs 2 and 3, and we're going to follow the same structure as yesterday. We're going to look at an example together and we're going to build a success criteria. We'll do a separate success criteria for paragraph 2 and a separate success criteria for paragraph 3, just to keep it nice and straightforward for you. I've also put up a picture just to remind you of your word bank with all the different information that I've included for you. It's on Portfolio. Download it now please, or open it up so that you've got it there ready to help. Okay, so we're going to have a read through this paragraph. I'll read it, but if you want to pause it and read it yourself, that's absolutely fine. Once I've had a read through, I would like you to pause the video and I'd like you to have a think about what are going to be the key features that I pick up on that I'd like you to include in your writing this week. You might pick some that I don't, and by all means include extras, but I'll give you the minimum of what I expect. So, here at National Geographic, we are of the belief that this discovery will change the way we look at the Arctic and the animals which dwell there forever. As our dedicated readers will already be aware, the Arctic is an immense freezing wilderness that's highly unforgiving. Therefore, any animal that decides to select this hostile region as its home must be a paragon of adaptation to survive the harsh conditions. Luckily, our team of expert scientists have been able to venture to the Arctic and observe this awe-inspiring creature in its natural habitat. Whilst there, they were blown away by its combination of exceptional and previously unseen adaptations. Okay, so pause it for a minute, Year 6. Have a read through again if you need to, and make some notes on on any book, on what you think we're going to focus on for this paragraph. Okay, so these are some of the things that I've come up with. So obviously we've got our non-negotiables, we've got our neat handwriting, we've got our spellings that need to be checked, our punctuation that needs to be checked, and we need to proofread for sense and tense. Are we writing in the correct tense? And then the more specific things that we're going to use for this paragraph. We've got first person pronouns. We've got explaining that this creature is like no other. We're going to describe to the reader why the Arctic is a very hostile place to live, and you've got loads of information on your word banks to help you there. We're going to have a go at using a semicolon. Now I've put before the word therefore, but you don't have to. If you're feeling confident, you can use a semicolon in your own way. And finally, we're going to use our last sentence to introduce our colon list, and that's where we're going to describe all of our creature's adaptations. So let's have a look at where these have been used in our writing already. So in the paragraph here, we can see at the start and throughout we've got a few things highlighted in purple, and these are our first person pronouns. So we've got we, they're plural pronouns, but they show that we're talking from our own point of view. So we're talking from the point of view of ourselves working at National Geographic. In orange, we've got two sentences. We've got this discovery will change the way we look at the Arctic. And we've got it must be a paragon of adaptation to survive these harsh conditions. And there we're showing that this creature is like no other. It's going to change the way that we look at science. It's going to make huge gains in the scientific fields. In green, we've got a sentence that tells us about the climate, the place that this creature has chosen to live. So it says the Arctic is an immense freezing wilderness that is highly unforgiving. So you've got a little sentence there to set the scene, to explain just why it's so impressive that we've found this creature living here. Following that immediately, we've got some in blue, and we've got semicolon, therefore, comma. So remember, if you're going to use a semicolon, if you're using it for something like however or therefore, do remember to put the comma in afterwards. And remember that after your semicolon, we're writing in the lower case. So don't put a capital after your semicolon. As I said earlier, if you're feeling confident enough to have a go at using a semicolon yourself, you can have a go at separating clauses without the example that I've given there. It's entirely up to you. And finally, we've got a colon list, well, introduction to a colon list in our final sentence. So we've said, whilst there, they were blown away by its combination of exceptional and previously unseen adaptations, colon. Now remember, if it makes sense without the colon, we don't need it. Here, to introduce my list, it wouldn't make sense if I just carried on now, so I've put the colon to introduce the bullet points that will be in my next paragraph. So what I'd suggest you do is I'd stop the video now, I'd flick between the slide that's up and the word bank so that you've got your waggle and you've got your word bank, and I'd have a go now at writing the second paragraph that explains in a little bit more detail just why this is such an impressive discovery. Once you've done that and you've proofread, you've checked your spelling, your punctuation, and you've checked that it makes sense, then come back and continue the video and we'll have a look at the next section that we're going to write together today. I don't think we'll find the next section too challenging, which is why I've combined them into one lesson. So pause the video and come back to me when you've got that bit done, Year 6. Okay, so hopefully you've now got that second paragraph written and you're ready to come in and do your third section, which is listing the adaptations that your creature has got. So we're going to be doing it as bullet points. When we write in bullet points, we can either start with a lowercase after it or we can start with a capital after it. The main thing is that we do it consistently. What I'm going to suggest, and I always suggest this, is whenever you write after a bullet point, I would start with a capital. If you get into the habit of starting with a capital letter, then we don't fall into the trap of occasionally doing it, occasionally not, and then we can't say that we're using it consistently for Year 6. So we're going to use bullet point lists, and we're going to use a capital after every one. I will read you through this paragraph, and then we'll talk it through in a little bit of detail, and do the same thing that we've done for the past two paragraphs. We'll come up with that success criteria together. So, a thick, insulating fur coat which changes colour to camouflage into the creature's surroundings. A hypersensitive set of whiskers, longer than any documented before, which are thought to be able to detect shellfish on the bottom of the Arctic floor at up to a mile away. Widespread paws equipped with rear-pointing spiked claws to hook and trap prey. Black skin under its fur coat, which allows it to absorb more heat from the sun's rays than any other documented polar creature. Bone tusks, used for impaling prey and cracking through ice to reach food sources. However, these can be retracted to streamline the creature when moving at speed. So, pause your video now, and it's the same thing we've been doing for the past couple of days. I'd like you to have a read through yourself. What can you spot that's going to form our success criteria for this part of our writing? I'll give you a couple of minutes, Year 6, and then unpause the video and carry on with me. So we have our non-negotiables as always. We've got our handwriting needs to be neat and joined. We've got our spellings and punctuation needs to be checked. And we need to proofread it for sense and tense, making sure it's in the right tense. And then we've got our more specific things. So here, we've talked about this one already. We're going to start each point with a bullet point. And after that bullet point, we're going to put a capital letter. We're going to use some relative clauses. And the easiest one to use here is the word which. So the creature, which does this. It's a nice, easy way to lead it in. We're going to use parentheses for extra information. You can choose Year 6 if you would like to use commas, brackets or dashes. And we're going to go for a minimum of 5 adaptations that your creature has with an explanation of why it has them. So I don't just want you to list it has long teeth, it has a good sense of smell, it has a thick coat. I want you to tell me why it's got them. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and we're going to look at some of these in my writing. So you can see I've highlighted the vast majority of it in purple, and that's because that was the point where we were going to say our minimum five adaptations that our creature has got. And if you read mine, you can see why the creature's got it. So for example, let's look at the fourth one down. black skin under its fur coat, so there's your adaptation, but now I'm going to tell you why it has it, which allows it to absorb more heat from the sun's rays than any other documented polar creature. So I'm adding that little bit of extra information. Coming up to the top, we've got a sentence that's highlighted in green. We've got which changes colour to camouflage into the creature's surroundings. And hopefully what you spotted there is we've used our relative pronoun which to create a relative clause. So we're adding extra information about that insulating fur coat. It's a nice easy one to lead in. If you scan through mine, you can see I think I've put which in 3 out of the 5. So which is a nice one to lead you into a relative clause to add that extra information. On the one below that, we've got a sentence that's bolded in blue, and I've done that because I've got dashes. I've got a pair of dashes around some extra information. Hopefully you've recognised that I've used it for parenthesis. So I could take out longer than any documented before, and that sentence would still make sense. I don't need it there, but I've added it, and I've added it in dashes because I think it's an important piece of information. It's showing just why these whiskers are so important compared to any other creature's whiskers. But I could have put it in commas, and I could have put it in brackets. As a general rule, we use brackets if we're writing numbers, but we could have got away with it if we wanted to. And the very last thing, we've just got a red arrow coming down to those bullet points. The bullet points do not go in the margin, they go at the start of your writing section of your book, and they are followed, as I've said many times already, by a capital. Now this should be a relatively simple paragraph for you to write because I'm hoping that you've already designed the creature, so all we're going to have to do here is put it into sentences. Try and keep your sentences varied, try not to write relative clause after relative clause after relative clause. If you're struggling to come up with some different sentence structures, then please look back at the Waggle and have a look at the word bank as well, which is still up on Portfolio. And once you've got the 2 pieces of writing done from today, the 2 paragraphs, please send them through to either Mr. Pugh or Miss Alexander so they can give you a little bit of feedback and you can get ready for the final day of writing, which is tomorrow. So well done year 6. I look forward to seeing what you come up with.